Hi everyone, it's Ashley here. Thank you for joining me for this week's video blog. This week we're going to continue our conversation about marriage. And as I stated last week we talked about spiritually connecting with our husbands and with our spouses. And this week we're going to talk about how to emotionally connect with our spouses. And some people hear this and think that it's just for women, like women just need to be connected to emotionally or have that emotional connection, but it's for husbands as well. Both sides need to feel that emotional connection within marriage and within the marriage relationship. So one verse I want to turn our attention to is Galatians chapter 6, found in verse 2. So Galatians 6:2. And there it says, "Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ." Also, in Romans chapter 12, it says we are to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. So there's a sense of having emotional connection, of actually knowing what the other person is going through in order to rejoice with them when things are going good, or weep with them when things are going rough, or bear the burdens of the other person. There has to be that communication and that open connection emotionally in order to even know that. Also, in Ephesians, wives are called to respect their husbands, and husbands are called to love their wives. And so one way to do that is to connect with each other on that emotional level and to know what's going on emotionally so that you can know if you're respecting your husband, or husbands if you're loving your wife. And one way to do that is to appeal to the emotional side of things. So a few ways to do this. Of course, communication is key. Talking to each other and spending time talking to each other, asking each other what's going on is really important. But taking it a step further, like it says in Galatians, to bear one another's burdens, to really be so in tune with the other person's emotional state and with what's going on in their heart and in their soul and in their mind, and what's really going on the inside, whether good or bad, so that you can bear that with your spouse and carry that with your spouse. So there's a handful of ways that you can do this, and I just suggest to kind of try a few different things or talk to your spouse about this and figure out what it is that you guys like to do and work on that together, or do it together in a way that you can connect. Date night is really popular, especially within Christian marriages. It's kind of the encouragement that's kind of going around, is to have one night a week where you're dating your spouse, to continue dating your spouse and to continue that relationship that you had when you were dating, where you are still seeking to get to know the person. You're still wanting to learn things about them as a person, learn what excites them, learn what they love, learn what they enjoy and what they don't like, and different things like that. So having a date night, a time where you can go out just with your spouse and talk about things other than kids, other than work, just talk, or even, I guess work's okay to talk about, but just to talk about each other and to talk about life and dreams and passions and goals and all of that type of stuff. Another way to connect on an emotional level is just to have a daily connection time. This is something my husband and I actually did start up after having a baby. We found within the first couple weeks that we weren't really having time together, having time to talk to each other, having time to stay connected with what's going on within our weeks and within our days. And so it kind of just happened where one night we had put our daughter to bed, usually between 8:30 and 9, and came back downstairs and just started talking. And then the next night I had said, I really enjoyed that. Can we make sure to do that, to make it a habit? So we do that every night after our daughter goes to bed. We spend a half hour or an hour or so just talking about our days and talking about our weeks and what the next day has for us, and just different stuff like that, whatever comes to mind. So we're trying to find a certain time each day, whether it's at dinner or at a certain meal or at night, where you can just reflect on your day and reflect on the days to come. Also, syncing your schedules together, whether electronically or not, but just having a time. My husband and I usually try to do it every Sunday, but whenever works for you, just having a time where you look at the week to come and you look at what each spouse is doing, and you make sure there are times in which you're together, and there's times planned out for family time, and you know what the other person's doing and they know what you're doing, so there's no surprise that comes in that area. Some other aspects that play a role in the emotional state of our marriage has to do with kind of what's going on inside of us like personally. So, just to check yourself and to see if there's any bitterness or resentment or frustration that you're holding against your spouse. And if there is, to deal with that quickly so that you can connect and feel connected emotionally to your spouse. Because if those things are there, and if there's a root of bitterness growing up, or just a feeling of resentment and a wall being built up within yourself toward your spouse, then it's going to be a lot harder, and I would say nearly impossible, to fully connect either spiritually, emotionally, or physically with your spouse. So to deal with those things very quickly and just fully seek resolution in those. Also, I think it helps with our emotions is if we feel appreciated and show appreciation for our spouses. So whenever there's a chance or an opportunity for you to show encouragement, or to show or tell your spouse that you appreciate them, use it, take advantage of that opportunity, and just let them know how much you love them, you appreciate what they're doing, you appreciate the hard work that they're doing, thanking them for the things that they're doing. It's the little stuff like that that we take for granted so many times, and just doing those small things can really improve the atmosphere and the environment and the emotional state of a marriage. So those are just some things to be aware of, and there's a lot of other ways that you can connect with your spouse emotionally, and it's different. Like I've said before, it's different for every single marriage. So just start seeking out and praying for some ways and some opportunities for you to do this with your spouse, and always take the first step. I know there's times in various relationships throughout my life when I've seen that a change needed to happen, or I felt that a change needed to happen, and usually I'd sit back and wait for the other person to do it. And that's not what God, I think, calls for us to do or wants for us to do. I think we need to be proactive and to take the steps that we can take as individuals toward change and towards improvement in the areas that God has shown us need to be improved. So if this is an area for you, and I think every relationship and every marriage can work on connecting emotionally and making sure that we are connecting emotionally. So just spend some time. I encourage you to spend some time in prayer about it, and just doing some trial and error and figuring out how you can connect with your spouse. Even if it's not reciprocated right away, I encourage you to continue to seek out opportunities to encourage your spouse, and to weep when he's weeping, and to bear the burdens with your spouse, and to rejoice when they're rejoicing, and to stay connected emotionally. So join me next week. We're going to take a look at connecting with our spouses physically, and in more ways than just the obvious way, and what God desires within that, and why that's important, and what the Bible says about our physical relationship with our spouses. So have a great week, and I will see you all next week. Thanks. Bye.